To understand why a narcissist engages in intimate relationships with such apparent indiscrimination, we must first fundamentally reframe what intimacy actually means to them. If we assume they operate from the same emotional framework as someone capable of genuine connection, we will never truly understand their pattern and will remain perpetually confused by choices that seem self-destructive, reckless, or inexplicable. The key insight is simple. For the narcissist, physical intimacy is not an expression of connection, desire, or mutual attraction. It is a transaction. It is a means to an end. Once you understand what ends they are trying to achieve, the indiscriminate nature of their behavior suddenly makes total sense. When most people engage intimately with someone, there is a complex interplay of genuine attraction, emotional connection, and mutual vulnerability. The specific individual matters. Their particular presence and who they are as a person are central to the whole experience. But the narcissist operates from an entirely different framework altogether. They are seeking something that any number of different people could easily provide. They are not looking for you specifically. They are looking for what you can do for them in that exact moment. They seek validation, control, regulation of their internal state, or proof of their overall desirability and power. Think carefully about what this means in practice. If intimacy is about proving to themselves that they are attractive and wanted, then the specific person becomes almost irrelevant. What matters most is that someone said yes and chose them. That person could be anyone as long as they fulfill that validating function. Stick with me here, because this next part reveals everything about how they view relationships. If intimacy is about exerting control, about demonstrating their power to seduce and access another person's body and vulnerability, then again, the individual does not matter in the slightest. What matters is the exercise of power itself. It is the proof that they can make something happen and override someone's boundaries. If intimacy is about regulating an internal state, providing temporary relief from emptiness, anxiety, or internal fragmentation, then it functions almost like a drug. When you seek a pharmaceutical effect, you do not develop a relationship with the substance. You just need it to work. The narcissist in this mode seeks sensation, distraction, and a temporary sense of being real. Any person who can provide that specific experience will do. This transactional framework explains something that profoundly baffles partners of narcissists: the shocking lack of standards or selectivity. You might discover that the person your narcissistic partner was intimate with is someone they themselves describe as unattractive, unintelligent, or lacking. You end up asking yourself why they would risk your relationship for that person. You wonder why they would choose someone who is clearly not as accomplished, attractive, or interesting as you. But you are still thinking in terms of genuine preference. The narcissist is not choosing based on who the person actually is. They are choosing based on sheer availability, opportunity, and whether that person can fulfill an immediate function. It is not all that different from someone who is extremely hungry, eating whatever food happens to be available. You do not develop elaborate culinary preferences when you are simply trying to fill a sudden void. This is also why narcissists can maintain multiple intimate relationships simultaneously without any apparent internal conflict. For someone capable of genuine connection, this would create immense cognitive and emotional dissonance. How do you reconcile intimate connection with multiple people? How do you manage competing emotional investments and navigate intense ethical complexity? For the narcissist, there is no dissonance because there is no real connection. Each person simply fulfills a function, provides a form of supply, and serves a specific purpose. They compartmentalize easily because they are not emotionally invested in any of these people as whole individuals. They engage strictly with what these people can do for them, not with who these people are. This transactional nature also explains their ability to be intimate with people they do not even particularly like. You might discover they were involved with someone they openly criticized, someone they found annoying, or someone whose company they did not enjoy outside of the bedroom. This seems utterly incomprehensible until you realize they were not relating to that person at all. They were just using that person's body and availability to meet a personal need. It is a profoundly objectifying way of relating, though the narcissist rarely recognizes it as such. They might even convince themselves they are experiencing genuine attraction in the moment because they have learned to perform these feelings convincingly. But there is no depth beneath the performance and no genuine regard for the other person's humanity. Any currency works for them. The narcissist does not need gold. They will take whatever is available. The transactional nature of these encounters points to something even more psychologically revealing. While intimacy serves various functions for them, one primary function is accumulating evidence in an ongoing internal case. They are trying to build the case for their own desirability, power, and significance. Remember that the narcissist has no stable internal sense of worth and no coherent self-esteem, independent of external validation. They are constantly trying to prove to themselves that they matter, that they are special, and that they are worthy of attention. Every single intimate encounter becomes a piece of evidence in this ongoing case. This is why numbers matter to them in a way that seems almost adolescent. They keep mental tallies, reference their body count with quiet pride, and collect encounters the way some people collect trophies. If you think about intimacy purely as connection, this seems bizarre and pathetic. But if you understand it as evidence gathering, it makes perfect sense. Each person who says yes, who finds them attractive, and who gives them access becomes undeniable proof. It is proof that they are desirable, powerful, and capable of seducing anyone. The actual experience of the encounter is secondary to what it represents in their effort to construct a sense of significance. Conquest matters so much more than connection. In fact, real connection would interfere with what they seek. Real connection requires vulnerability, reciprocity, and the risk of being rejected for who they actually are. Seduction is pure validation, with zero risk of exposure. Pay close attention to what I am about to tell you next, because this changes how you view their past. Watch how the narcissist talks about their intimate experiences when they are unguarded. Often there is a quality of acquisition rather than genuine enthusiasm about the person or the experience. They talk about having someone, closing the deal, or being able to get anyone they want. The language reveals what is happening psychologically. These are possessions, achievements, and notches on a belt, rather than relationships with human beings. This is where the indiscriminate quality becomes particularly important, because it is not just that anyone will do. The more varied, numerous, and impressive the collection, the more convincing the internal evidence becomes. If the narcissist can attract people of different types, demographics, and levels of attractiveness, it proves their universal desirability. They are not just attractive to one specific type, they are attractive to everyone. There is also an element of compulsive proving happening here, because their internal emptiness is constant. Their need for validation is completely insatiable. One encounter does not actually fill the void or resolve the fundamental question of their worth. So, they need another, and another, and another. Each provides a temporary sense of being desired and powerful, but it fades almost immediately, requiring the next quick fix. This is why narcissists can be intimate with someone and then immediately begin pursuing the next person. It is not that the first encounter was unsatisfying. It simply did not resolve the underlying existential crisis driving them. The emptiness returns quickly, and they need more evidence, more proof, and more validation to keep going. Think about how different this is from how healthy people experience intimate relationships. For someone capable of genuine connection, intimacy creates closeness, satisfaction, and a period where they feel emotionally full and do not need external validation. The encounter nourishes something within them. But for the narcissist, each encounter is like trying to fill a bucket with a massive hole in the bottom. It might look full for a fleeting moment, but the emptiness returns immediately because nothing external can remedy the deep internal deficit they carry. So they remain in constant pursuit, constantly needing to prove their desirability and seeking evidence that never quite convinces them for long. This also explains why narcissists often pursue people who are already in relationships, seemingly unavailable, or who initially reject them. If they can successfully seduce someone committed elsewhere or someone who said no, that becomes even more compelling evidence of their ultimate power. The difficulty of the conquest makes the validation far more potent. It is not about the person at all. It is about what successfully seducing that person proves about the narcissist. They are not pursuing a relationship. They are pursuing absolute proof of their superiority. There is something profoundly sad about this when you really sit with it. What the narcissist seeks proof of their worth can never actually be obtained through these encounters. External validation cannot resolve an internal deficit. No amount of people saying yes can fill the void left by a lack of a coherent self. They remain trapped in a compulsive cycle, collecting evidence that never quite convinces them, accumulating encounters that provide momentary relief, and pursuing validation that evaporates instantly. The people they are intimate with are not truly there as full human beings in their mind. They are witnesses, validators, and tools. Their subjectivity, desires, and humanity are entirely peripheral to their function in the narcissist's psychological economy. This is perhaps the most dehumanizing aspect of their indiscriminate intimacy. It is not just that they will be intimate with anyone, but that in doing so, they are not truly intimate with anyone at all. Every encounter is fundamentally about themselves, their need for validation, and their compulsive effort to prove something that cannot ever be proven through another person's body. When you use intimacy to prove your worth, everyone becomes mere evidence and no one becomes real. But there is another dimension to this behavior that goes even deeper than validation seeking or evidence gathering. This next layer touches on something far more visceral and desperate: their profound disconnection from their own body and their experience of an internal void that is almost unbearable in its emptiness. Let me explain what I mean by this, because it gets to something fundamental about their relationship with physical sensation itself. The narcissist exists in a chronic state of dissociation, cut off from their authentic self, genuine feelings, and embodied experience. Their entire structure avoids contact with a core self they experience as defective. This defense comes at a tremendous cost. They are cut off from the felt sense of being real, alive, and inhabiting their own body in a grounded way. This creates an experience of emptiness that is difficult for most people to fully comprehend. It is not just emotional emptiness, it is an existential void, a sense of not quite existing, of watching life happen from behind a glass wall. The narcissist goes through the motions, performs emotions, and acts out what seems appropriate. But there is very little authentic felt experience underneath. This is where physical intimacy enters as a particular kind of solution, however temporary it might be. Intimacy provides something the narcissist desperately needs: sensation, intense enough to break through the dissociation. Physical touch, arousal, and the overwhelming nature of an intimate encounter create moments where the narcissist actually feels something, anchors in their body, and experiences themselves as present and real. It is not unlike the way some people use extreme sports, physical pain, or high-risk behavior to feel alive. The intensity of the sensation cuts through the numbness and provides temporary relief from the emptiness. If this is what you seek from intimacy, not connection with another person, but relief from your own inner void, then the person becomes completely irrelevant. You are not looking for someone. You are looking for pure sensation. You are looking for an experience intense enough to make you feel real for just a moment, no matter who delivers it. This explains why encounters are often completely mechanical, devoid of genuine passion or actual pleasure. The narcissist might seem utterly disconnected during the experience, going through motions that look more compulsive than pleasurable, because they are not seeking pleasure in a conventional sense. They are seeking the sensation of feeling anything that breaks through the chronic numbness of their existence. That sensation can come from intimacy with anyone. It does not require attraction, connection, or basic regard for the other person. This also explains the compulsive and addictive quality of their behavior. Like any attempt to manage an internal void through external means, it provides temporary relief, but no lasting solution. The sensation fades, the dissociation returns, and the emptiness reasserts itself. So they need another encounter, another moment of feeling real, and another temporary reprieve from the unbearable experience of being cut off from themselves. The narcissist essentially uses other people's bodies as a form of self-medication, trying to treat a profound psychological wound through physical touch. It cannot work because the problem is not a lack of physical stimulation. It is a fundamental disconnection from the self that no amount of external experience can remedy. The people they use are not partners or participants in a shared experience. They are instruments, vehicles for sensation, and a means of temporarily escaping the void. The narcissist might perform interest and say things that sound intimate, but the internal reality is one of profound aloneness. Even in the most physically intimate moments, the narcissist is completely alone with their desperate attempt to feel real. This is why encounters can be so varied in nature and so indiscriminate regarding context. The narcissist might engage in ways that seem random, impulsive, or self-sabotaging. They might pursue intimacy at inappropriate times, in risky situations, with completely unsuitable people. None of this makes sense if you think they seek pleasure or connection. It makes perfect sense if you understand they seek relief from an unbearable internal state. The compulsive quality intensifies during periods when their defenses are strained. When facing failure, loss, or threats to their grandiose self-image, the void becomes much more intense. Dissociation becomes pronounced, and the need for sensation cuts deeper. This is why you see escalating patterns of indiscriminate behavior during times of stress or instability in their life. Using intimacy to manage the void becomes cyclical and self-perpetuating. Each impulsive encounter deepens their disconnection from genuine intimacy, reinforcing the pattern of relating to others as objects. It makes authentic connection less accessible, trapping them in a cycle where the escape mechanism ensures they remain trapped. They seek to feel real through encounters that require them to stay disconnected from genuine feeling, trying to escape emptiness through experiences that only offer temporary sensation. All the while, they move through a series of human beings who believe they are engaging in something mutual and meaningful, never knowing they are merely serving as a temporary anesthetic for someone else's existential crisis. When you use another person's body to feel momentarily real, anyone with a pulse becomes sufficient because you are not seeking them, you are simply fleeing yourself. Now, we must address something much darker and more strategic. When the narcissist is in a primary relationship with you, their indiscriminate behavior serves another crucial function. It becomes a weapon, a tool of control and devaluation that is effective precisely because of how indiscriminate it truly is. This is one of the most psychologically devastating aspects of being in a relationship with a narcissist. The lower they set their standards with others, the more it communicates to you that you are not special, that you are easily replaced, and that your commitment, loyalty, and sacrifice mean nothing. Think about what happens when you discover your partner was intimate with someone you perceive as clearly less accomplished, less attractive, or less interesting than you. Your first response might be profound confusion. You wonder why they would risk your relationship for that person. But you are still assuming their behavior reflects genuine desire or preference. That assumption is precisely what makes the devaluation so destructive to your self-esteem. What the narcissist actually communicates through their indiscriminate choices is clear. Your qualities are completely irrelevant. Everything you thought made you valuable, your depth, loyalty, and personal strengths, does not matter to them at all. They will be intimate with anyone, regardless of their traits, which implies you could be anyone and anyone else could easily step into your place. By lowering their standards to the absolute floor, they strip away your feeling of being uniquely valued.